The ancient Greek Olympics were a momentous moment in the Greek world. Thousands of Greeks from all over the Mediterranean flocked to Olympia, a sanctuary dedicated to Zeus, the king of the gods. The games were immensely popular for the thrilling activities on display, ranging from running to chariot racing to wrestling. The games at Olympia continued steadily until the Christian times, when they finally came to an end. Nevertheless, they became the main inspiration for the modern Olympic Games, which continue to this day and retain many of its original traditions. The ancient Greek Olympics were held at the sanctuary of Olympia, situated in the western Peloponnese. This sacred site, dedicated to the god Zeus, was established around the 8th century BC. Olympia was under the jurisdiction of the city-state of Elis, and it became the revered venue for the Olympic Games, which attracted athletes from across Greece to compete in various athletic contests, fostering camaraderie and celebrating physical prowess. Legend has it that the ancient Olympic Games have their roots in Greek mythology, as they were believed to be founded by the Greek mythological hero Hercules after his completion of his 12 labours. These games were initially established as a religious festival to honour Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, serving as a means of promoting physical fitness, strength and determination, qualities believed to be greatly respected by the king of the gods himself. In time, however, competition in athletic disciplines like running, wrestling, and discus ultimately symbolised the ideal of Greek excellence. However, according to ancient historians, the Olympic Games were founded because of the creation of the Olympic truce, the Ekacheria, between warring kings Iphitos of Elis and Cleisthenes of Pisa, and Lycurgus, the legendary lawgiver in Sparta. This truce was pivotal in the history of the Olympic Games, protecting the presiding city-state Elis from any attacks during the staging of the Games. The first excavations of Olympia were led by German archaeologists in the 19th century, and subsequent excavations were carried out by archaeologists from various countries. The systematic excavation of Olympia revealed the ancient stadium, the gymnasium, various temples and other structures associated with the Olympic Games. Much of our knowledge about the Olympic Games comes from archaeological findings at Olympia, including inscriptions, statues, and the remains of buildings. Additionally, ancient texts and writings by historians such as Pausanias, who visited Olympia in the 2nd century AD, provide valuable descriptions and details about the site and the Games. The ancient Olympic Games exemplified the spirit of unity among the Greeks, city-states. Athletes from various regions gathered every 4 years, setting aside their differences in a celebration of athleticism. The Olympic truce also exemplified the peace that the Games brought. The Games promoted a shared Greek identity, emphasizing the value of unity within Greece. The Olympic Games, nevertheless, intended to promote unity, sometimes ignited tensions among Greek city-states. Competition for athletic glory and disputes over rules or alleged cheating fueled rivalries. Athleticism held immense importance in the Greek world, reflecting their emphasis on physical prowess and the beauty of the human form. This emphasis is evident in the practice of the Olympics, where athletes competed naked to symbolize exactly this. These games, therefore, celebrated the idealized human physique. There were many different activities that took place during the Games. The most prestigious, as well as the most ancient of these games, was the running race from one side of the stadium to the other, called the Stadion, around 200 meters. There were, however, other distances, such as 2 lengths of the track, or you could do the extremely long distance, 20 or 24 lengths. Runners started while standing on special stone slabs containing grooves for the toes which acted as a starting line. Leonidas of Rhodes was considered the greatest runner in the history of the Games, whose spectacular feats of athleticism made him a hero among his countrymen, to the point that they even deified him. He won principal sprinting events, even a particular race done in armour, at 4 Olympic Games, winning 12 victories across 4 events. Leonidas won the aforementioned stadion 4 times. The number of competitors varied, but at the apex of the Games it would not be unusual for there to be 20 participants in some races. False starts in the Olympics were considered a terrible sin and were duly met with corporal punishments. Chariot-racing was another extremely popular activity at the Games. It was thrilling, fast, and full of surprises, making it a fan favourite. Crashes were also the norm, to the delight of spectators. Races would take place in the specially constructed hippodrome at Olympia. Chariots were 4-horsed, and there would be a single charioteer positioned on an open-backed wooden chariot. The hippodrome had an elaborate mechanism behind the starting gates, which would open, allowing the chariots to career past. A key part of the hippodrome was the turning post, which charioteers would have to manoeuvre around at high speeds. At Olympia, the horses would do 12 circuits, covering roughly 14,000 metres. However, the prized olive wreath went to the owner of the charioteers, rather than the driver. Boxing was another event at the Olympics. With few rules, including no time limits or weight limits, this sport was very brutal. In some cases, competitors actually died. The event would only end when one competitor gave in. Boxing was similar to other sports, but its key features included punching and dodging. Boxers' hands were bound in leather as protection, but aside from that there were very few precautions. Wrestling was another sport that enjoyed wild popularity for its very throws, many of which are still around today. The pankration was a mixture of both these sports, which together were known as the heavy sports. There were sparse rules in the pankration, except that biting and gouging were forbidden. Before these events, competitors would smother themselves in oil and train up in a structure called the palaestra, which was connected to the gymnasium. Discus, javelin and jumping were further events that, along with running and wrestling, made up the pentathlon. These events require little explanation. Interestingly, participants in the long jump used weights to provide extra propulsion, and in the discus, it was rare to obtain lengths over 30 meters. Women were absolutely forbidden to compete in the Games, though there were certain loopholes available to them. Notably, to win in a chariot racing event, one had to own their own horses. In some cases, aristocratic women did actually possess their own horses, such as Kyniska, daughter of Spartan king Archidamos. She became an Olympic champion with her horses when they won the race, and this is attested in inscriptions. As you may recall, it was not the driver that received the olive wreath, but the owner of the chariots. 2 stories attest to the presence of nudity in the Olympic Games. One states that there was a runner from Megara who lost his shorts during the stadium, and hence the practice was introduced, whilst another story states that it was a Spartan tradition. There were many important traditions that took place during the Games. Before the Games, 100 oxen would be sacrificed to Zeus. This was known as a hecatomb. The Games also became a site for artists to flock to create statues and sculptures in honour of winners. For example, one of the most famous sculptures surviving from antiquity in Roman copies is the Discobulos by Myron, depicting an athlete poised to release his discus.